They didn't scream for help. They couldn't. Every sound meant death. 8 enemy snipers had locked the Rangers into a frozen pocket of dirt and stone, and the valley itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for the first man brave or foolish enough to move. Then, somewhere behind the line, a woman calmly unfolded a rifle case, already knowing she would be alone when this was over. Like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more stories. The morning light was thin and grey, stretched flat across the Afghan valley like a dull blade. Dust floated in the air, kicked up by explosions that had stopped minutes ago but still echoed in everyone's ears. The Rangers were pinned along a shallow ridgeline, pressed into rock and mud, helmets scraping stone as bullets cracked inches overhead. The camera would drift low across their faces, jaw clenched, eyes sharp, breaths slow but heavy. These were experienced men, combat-tested, but experience doesn't stop physics. 8 snipers, elevated, coordinated, patient. Every angle was covered, every movement punished. Staff Sergeant Maya Kincaid wasn't part of the pinned element. Not yet. She was 30 meters back, in a defilade position near a collapsed compound wall, attached to the unit as an overwatch sniper for the mission. She had been there to provide long-range coverage, not to fight a war alone. Her rifle lay beside her, matte black, already dusted with fine sand. She listened to the radio traffic without speaking, counting shots, mapping angles in her head. 1 sniper far left, 2 near the dried riverbed, 1 high on the shale slope. The rest were ghosts, revealed only by sound and timing. The Rangers tried to maneuver once. Just once, a corporal lifted his shoulder to shift position, and the round snapped past his helmet so close it shaved paint. After that, no one moved. Minutes stretched, sweat ran down spines despite the cold. The valley smelled like metal and dirt and burned cordite. The enemy wasn't rushing them. That was the worst part. They were waiting, content to let fear and exposure do the work. Maya pressed her cheek against the rifle stock and looked through her scope, not at the enemy yet, but at her own reflection, faintly visible in the glass. She thought of the promise she'd made to herself years ago, that if she ever had the skill to change the outcome, she wouldn't hesitate. She keyed her radio once, then stopped. Rangers Command was already discussing extraction options, air support that might or might not make it in time. Time was the one thing they didn't have. The camera would tighten on her hands as she adjusted the bipod, movements steady, almost gentle, no shaking, no drama. She had trained for this in places that didn't matter, so she could perform when it did. She finally spoke. Voice calm, low, cutting through the chaos like a blade. She told them she could take 1 sniper, maybe 2. Silence answered her. Then a ranger replied, honest and flat, saying 8 shooters meant certain death if she was spotted. Maya didn't argue. She didn't promise miracles. She just looked up the valley again, tracing the invisible lines of fire converging on her pinned teammates. The wind shifted slightly, brushing her cheek. She adjusted her dope without thinking. Somewhere far ahead, an enemy sniper settled into his scope, unaware that the balance of the fight had just begun to tip. She exhaled slowly, knowing that once she fired, there would be no turning back. And she squeezed the trigger. The rifle's report was sharp but controlled, swallowed quickly by the open space of the valley. No echo lingered long enough to betray her position. Through the scope, Maya watched the first sniper collapse backward, his rifle slipping from hands that had held power seconds earlier. The body rolled once, then disappeared behind rock. One threat gone, but 7 more still owned the terrain. For a half second, nothing changed. Then the valley reacted. Enemy rounds intensified, snapping harder, faster, probing for the source. Dust kicked up around Maya's position as she rolled slightly to her left, already breaking her silhouette. The camera would stay tight on her face. Now is narrowed, breath measured, pulse invisible but present. She didn't rush the next shot. Rushing got people killed. She let the chaos settle, listened to the rhythm of the gunfire, the subtle delays between shots that betrayed human patterns. On the radio, a ranger whispered her call sign, disbelief barely contained. One sniper down meant relief, but it also meant attention. Maya replied with a single word, copy, and nothing else. Her world had narrowed to angles, wind, and time. She adjusted her scope again, tracking movement near the dried riverbed where 2 shooters had been trading turns, one firing while the other watched for countersnot. The wind shifted again, stronger this time, tugging at the dust and her loose sleeve. Maya calculated, without pausing, fingers turning dials she had turned thousands of times before. The camera would pull back briefly, showing just how exposed she was. No armored nest, no team covering her flanks. Just a woman, a rifle, and a collapsing wall between her and 8 men who now knew someone was hunting them. She caught the glint of glass. A flash, quick and careless. The second sniper never knew what gave him away. Maya fired, the recoil familiar and grounding. The round struck true, and the body slumped forward, rifle clattering against stone. Before the echo died, she was already moving, dragging herself a meter to the right, changing elevation, breaking the memory of her position. The Rangers felt it immediately. The volume of incoming fire dipped just enough for heads to lift, for breath to come easier. One man mouthed a prayer. Another smiled despite himself. But the fight was far from over. The enemy adjusted, spreading out, firing erratically now, trying to flush her out with volume instead of precision. Maya's radio crackled again. Command was asking for confirmation, for a count, for a plan. She ignored it. Plans were for later. Right now, there were still too many rifles aimed at her teammates. She spotted a third sniper high on the shale slope, using elevation and shadow to stay hidden. He was good careful, the kind that waited for mistakes. Maya decided not to give him one. She slowed her breathing, letting the world fade at the edges. The scope framed the slope, the rock, the faint outline of a shoulder. The shot required patience. Seconds passed. Then more. Her muscles burned, but she didn't shift. Finally, the sniper leaned just enough to check his sector. The shot echoed louder than the others, bouncing off the rock face. The sniper dropped where he stood. 3. Enemy fire surged again, angry now, desperate. Rounds struck the wall inches from Maya's head, showering her with grit. One fragment cut her cheek, warm blood mixing with dust. Down the ridge, a ranger tried to move a wounded teammate, dragging him inch by inch. A round cracked so close it split the dirt between them. Maya saw it and felt something tighten in her chest. She knew she couldn't keep trading 1-for-1 forever. The enemy would adapt faster than she could shoot. She scanned again, faster now, pushing the pace despite the risk. She found a fourth sniper repositioning, crawling low, thinking the chaos hid him. It didn't. Maya fired, then rolled hard as return fire chewed through her previous spot. 4 snipers down. Her breathing finally hitched, just once. She was halfway through, exposed, bleeding, and now fully marked. Somewhere out there, the remaining shooters were narrowing in bars, and they were learning her patterns. The valley grew quiet in a way that felt wrong, too still, too expectant. Maya knew what that meant. The hunt was about to turn. The silence wasn't peace. It was calculation. The valley had gone still because the remaining snipers had stopped firing to think, and that made them far more dangerous. Maya felt it in her gut before she saw any movement. Experienced shooters didn't panic. They adapted. They flanked. They waited for the one mistake fatigue always brings. She wiped the blood from her cheek with the back of her glove, leaving a dark smear across the fabric, then forced herself to slow down again. The camera would hover just above her shoulder now, showing the wide emptiness of the valley through her scope.